Crispin, you're there. Yeah. So first, I asked you whether you had any intel on what we're about to get, what the week is going to look like.
Yep. Sadly not. I have no breathless reports to deliver, like Sebastian Payne.
And I'm sure you're waiting for Sue Gray like everybody else. Can I ask you whether you are open-minded as to what its contents may say, and you may support the Prime Minister in his current role after it, or you may not? Or have you made up your mind already?
Of course, in coming to any decision, one's going to weigh all the evidence available to you when you have to come to make that decision. However, this whole episode is really now beginning to descend in a pretty premier-class Whitehall farce. We need to take. We've lost our sense of perspective on this. I think everybody needs to take a step back and try to put themselves in the situation that the centre of the government was in the course of 2020. In fact, we very nearly lost our Prime Minister, who was within very close to being put on a ventilator, and then his prospects would have been pretty thin indeed. And that would have been a first-class leadership crisis for the whole country. And we, as you will know, how hard those civil servants work at the centre of government, as they're working every hour, God sends, combating a completely unprecedented public health crisis for our country. And here we are 2 years later, and everybody has actually overall, by any international standard, done a pretty good job for the United Kingdom.
Is it your suggestion that there hasn't been an offence, that the Prime Minister didn't err? Or is your suggestion, which I've heard some people argue, that this is just not a big enough offence to sack a Prime Minister?
Well, that is certainly would be my departure point at the moment.
The latter, that he has erred, but not big enough offence.
And we all know the complexity of the rules we had to pass in order to try and combat the spread of the coronavirus. And some of these rules made more sense in hindsight than others, which probably didn't achieve very much. But these were difficult decisions being made. And it may very well be that probably inside most homes and inside most businesses and inside most pieces of public administration, people may have not kept absolutely to the rules. And we heard the Met Commissioner this morning talking about the 4 E's strategy, most of which was to encourage people to get engaged with the rules and do the right thing for the right reasons. That's actually probably why I defended Dominic Cummings over that trip to Barnard Castle, because by and large he was trying to do the right things for the country, isolate his family and get them to a safe place where they were able to recover from the coronavirus. Now, I had twice as many letters about that than I've had about the Prime Minister.
But
you've got the Metropolitan Police investigating alleged criminality in breathless tones from the Deputy Leader of the Opposition about some terrible offence, which would attract a fixed penalty notice.
No, look, you can take the attitude, obviously, and people will disagree about whether it's a big offence or not. You can take the attitude it isn't a big offence. However, by June 2020, we had established that the public view was this was a big offence. There had been an almighty row over Dominic Cummings. Neil Ferguson had resigned his position because he had breached the rules. There had been other cases of people doing that. Matt Hancock lost his job because he broke the rules. Having established that, the government having upheld that is the position, these are serious breaches, any breach is serious, don't we need to hold the Prime Minister to the same standard?
Well, the incident you're referring to there is his birthday, when in a small event in Downing Street, which I think lasted all of 10 minutes, he's given a birthday cake.
It's not just that one, is it? It's not really just that one.
No,
we've got a dozen or more, 2 dozen.
But Evan, I agree. That's the June date you refer to. Track back to the 20th of May and when he went out into the garden to thank his staff for all the work that they were doing. 2 days later, the Dominic Cummings story broke. Now, of course, judgments will have been taken in all of these instances, and all of this is going to be laid out for us in, no doubt, very proper detail by a combination of both Sue Gray and the Metropolitan Police. Meanwhile, there's a country to govern. There is an international crisis to manage. There continues to be the pandemic to address. There's an economy to prepare, and above all, there is levelling up to.
And who should we blame? Who should we blame that we're talking about parties? Clearly the public are interested in this. News audiences have been up because they're interested in what the Prime Minister has been doing and his integrity in describing and being honest and straight with what he's doing. It is obviously an enormous distraction to things that are more important than whether a birthday cake was given to him. But who do we blame for the fact that your government is not governing at the moment? It's paralysed by this scandal.
Well, I think actually we aren't. As far as I can see, we are governing. That the National Security Council is meeting over issues such as Ukraine, and actually, you've just been complaining or made the remark that he saw fit not to mention at the Cabinet of this development in this affair. And that's actually probably where it actually sits in the real governance of the country, where decisions have to be taken in order to conduct the Queen's government. And I, of course, one understands why this issue has a real effect on people who have had to sacrifice so much, who've not been able to see elderly relatives, who have not been able to be with relatives.
Indeed, we understand that.
Not been able, and that's why it has such a grip on the public imagination. But we do need actually now to step back and put it in the right perspective.
Even though the police are now investigating goings-on at Downing Street.
Because the police are required to, because there may be a technical criminal offence, like a speeding fine, that might lead to a fixed penalty notice. Those are criminal offences. Now, no one would suggest if the Prime Minister was speeding that he should be sacked as Prime Minister, I hope. He should be driving himself in any case. But
Crispin Blunt.
Let's try and get it in perspective, and let's try and remember the circumstances we were operating in were quite unique. And we're talking about people who are working very, very hard for our country.
Crispin Blunt, good to talk to you.